It's the Real Estate Podcast, brought to you by ANZ Home Loans for financial well-beings.
And welcome back to another episode of the Real Estate Breakfast, as we have been doing all year, talking about your property real estate news. We do it 7 days a week. Yes, sometimes it has felt like that monumental hill that we are climbing together. It is a Tuesday, December the 17th, and in just a moment we are off to Hobart. Don't know whether you noticed this or not over the weekend that's just been. Seems like a lot of caravans, motorhomes, packed up 4x4s, the boats are being pulled. I reckon people have already made a dash for it to start their Christmas holidays early. And I reckon that's also getting earlier and earlier these days. If you've done that, if you're already on holiday, or perhaps you're listening to the podcast travelling to your holiday destination, well done. Clearly you've had a great year. And coming up over the Christmas New Year period, we have our very popular summer series returning. This is when we look back over the best and the worst of 2024 real estate. So I thought today, just to get us into the mood of this, because we haven't been talking lately about Hobart and the Tasmanian real estate market, we're going to take you back to May of this year and find out what was happening in Hobart.
The Real Estate Podcast wishes you and your family a fantastic Christmas break and a happy new year ahead.
And joining us is David Lithgow, and he knows the market pretty well there in Tasmania. And good morning to you, David. Welcome to the Real Estate Breakfast this morning.
Oh, thanks so much for having me on, Craig.
Before we get talking about the real estate, you're a bit of a national sports commentator. So what are you commentating on?
Yes, I am. I guess I've been in that industry for about 15 years. I commentate the AFL, some of the various different cricket options down here, the BBL, of course, some international cricket, and the NBL. I was actually very much privileged recently to be the commentator for the Tasmanian Jack Jumpers games. And of course, they come to prominence winning the National Basketball League title only 5 or 6 weeks ago. So look, it mixes really well with property, Craig, because you intertwine a lot with these things, and everybody's got a house. We hope everybody's got the opportunity for a house, and they work well together.
Yeah, well, it's also sort of that whole relatability. I mean, you know, you could be doing my job if you weren't selling real estate.
Maybe, and I guess it's for me. I know you've got a long history in radio. I'm very much used to live radio and TV, so you got to have your finger on the pulse and just be ready to go. I think one take's an easier take, as you know, anyway.
That's right, yeah, and there's so many talking points. There has been too for 2024. So let's turn our attention to the Hobart property market, because it does present a dynamic scenario where price growth, affordability, sales pace and market tightness are all intertwined. Looking at that affordability factor for first home buyers right now, how frustrated are they in Hobart? And secondly, where should they be looking for their first property investment?
It's a fascinating question that's similar right around the country, but of course everyone's just got different variations on that. And I guess my background with that conversation, of course, a little bit of history. We've effectively had 2 booms over the last 7 or 8 years. Of course, 2017, it really continued right on to, let's say, March 2022. A very unusual event in cycles of real estate. You effectively had a once every 12 or 13 year boom, twice in 5 years. So certainly a lot of suburbs over the next 2 years, right through to now here in May, that there's been property going down right across the town spasmodically, and you've always been able to get a deal done. And I guess act as what you need to do as a proper agent, get in there and roll your sleeves up and do those types of things. But it does feel like we've got now, and we've been talking of recent time, the last 6 or 8 weeks in particular, that we've probably got to a spot where it feels like it's hit the bottom. I never thought it was a demand issue, Craig, down here about people wanting to move to Tasmania. It was more the fact that on the back of two booms, something had to give eventually, and things have sort of come down 10, 12% across the board over that time. But there's some good buys now, to get back to your original question, because I'm seeing property, for example, and out in the suburbs in particular, if you go into the northern suburbs where Claremont, Montrose, Rosetta, out as far as Austin's Ferry, those properties have come back quite substantially. So finally, we do feel like there's some real affordability to people.
All right, so we're talking with David. He has got his finger on the pulse in Hobart. We'll come back. We'll talk more property after this.
Listen to in-depth discussions with industry leaders on investing options, understanding different suburbs with insider perspectives and exclusive tips.
Well, in the ongoing saga of Australia's housing crisis and lack of land, fierce battles are unfolding involving community groups, councils, developers, lawyers and planners, all vying for control over where and what to build. And you might have seen this yesterday. The ABC reported about a couple, Adrian and Glenn, who find themselves embroiled in one such conflict. They're part of a coalition of over 700 neighbours locked in a legal showdown. This is against a proposed housing development on an abandoned golf course on prime Gold Coast land. Their argument is clear. They say to preserve green space for future generations. And while the local council unanimously rejected the developer's plans, the state government could intervene using special powers under the Planning Act. We will keep a very watchful eye on all of that.
Ready to step up your property knowledge? Access powerful insights with us.
We are in Tasmania, in Hobart, talking with David Lithgow this morning. And David, I want to ask you about PropTrack's Market Outlook report. Now, the projections, this was from a couple of months ago. They were saying that a range of possibility for Hobart's property prices in 2024, spanning from a 2% decline to a 1% increase. And then there are some economists predicting an uptick of between 2 and 4% in Hobart's property prices this year. So what do you think? Where do you see that? I mean, here we are, we're in May, so what's your outlook forecast?
It's a fascinating question, and one that I'm having considerable conversations with vendors and future vendors as we speak. I look from my personal perspective. I bought our first investment property for a while, about 5 weeks ago, because I'm in the camp that feels like we probably feel like we're at the floor in Hobart. And there's some really good opportunities around at the moment. Now, I feel somewhat confident, and this is a conversation people like you and I are having every day, is that perhaps after the end of the financial year in July, that maybe we get a turn. And then history always says that often one brings two. And so you have another interest rate decrease by the end of the year around, always used to say around the Melbourne Cup time, around November. And then things really get rolling quite quickly. Again, there is property down here that, let's go into the more affordable areas that were 620 or 30,000 now. And you can sometimes get those properties for 540, 550. Now, that'll vary from suburb to suburb and house to house, and still very much some of the more boutique things. The prices are quite consistent. But overall, I see opportunity, absolutely. Yeah, and I think that can be based on not just the lower end, which is so important for young people in this country to be able to get in and buy their first home, but at the top end as well. And I sort of do a bit of everything in my day, and people are right there. The side of people saying we're going to get a turn in July and it's going to go back, but then there is the other people that say, well, you know what? Maybe we've got one more increase before July 30. And I feel like in the market, when I'm dealing with people every day, that general vibe is right in the middle. And so there is still, like any cycle, when you're at the bottom or near it, people trying to decide, is it now? Do we go in now?
And you mentioned that you bought an investment property 5 weeks ago. What about those investors at the moment? Are you still seeing them sort of come through with those inquiries and buying into the market?
They certainly are there, there's no question. And there's a little bit of a cagey feel about it all as well, as people are feeling out the whole process, but they're certainly there. And there's no doubt the interstate investors are there at that top end area and some of that boutique property or that larger block of land. And you've got to remember, Tasmania's a small place, Craig. There's not that many houses. And the investors are creeping back into the 3-bedder out in the suburbs, those suburbs that I mentioned before, the northern suburbs. I'll tell you what I bought. It was a 2-bedroom property in Belrive, not far from the beach. And it felt like that probably dropped 60 or 70. So it went from the mid 500s to under 500,000, which I think in long term will be a fabulous buy. So it's an interesting period. There's a lot of people that are holding, but there's also people that are pouncing because, again, I think we've got some incredible opportunities right across broader Greater Hobart. And then you can talk about Launceston, where you used to work, of course, Craig, and the Northwest Coast, and opportunities tend to be talked about in those areas as well.
And what about the slowdown in the population growth? Now, there's a bit of talk about this indicating reduced migration to the region, which is going to impact on the housing demand. And I wonder, you talk about the market slightly coming back. You've made that purchase, whether that's kind of contributing factor.
Look, I don't believe in it. There's an enormous amount of prosperity in Tasmania moving forward. I moved to Melbourne in 2014, 15, 16, came back in 17 with some sporting commitments. And in that time, from before I moved, in my mid-30s to when I came back, with the development of Mona and everything that's done for the town, and I mentioned about the prosperity moving forward, about actually having your own AFL team, which is going to happen, a new stadium, etc., which creates so many more professional opportunities for people. People forget, it's just for the footballers. Well, no, it's not. It's actually for the physiotherapist. It's actually for the specialist doctors in that area and everything else that feeds off that. And the one thing that's held Tassie back over the years is people that are in their mid-30s want to come home or vice versa is work opportunity. Well, that professional aspect of what the AFL team is going to do for the men's and women's team is going to be enormous in that. That's just down the road. Again, we don't have millions of houses down here. It's a small place. It's very desirable. And I'll tell you what I have noticed is I've never seen so many people from Queensland that think, you know what, it's just too damn hot here. I want to move to Tassie. Mm-hmm. I'm here now. It's about 16 degrees today. I will have my T-shirt on again when I go out. It's not super cold at all yet. It will get cooler, but the climate here is very appealing to a lot of people.
Yeah, I think that will sort of, as the global warming heats up, areas like Hobart, like Tasmania, are going to find extra people coming into the marketplace. Well, great to chat with you, David. Good luck with the commentary. Good luck with that new investment and good luck with real estate there in Hobart. And thanks for coming on to the Real Estate Breakfast this morning.
Thoroughly enjoyed it, Craig. Thanks for having me.
Don't navigate the real estate market alone. Let us help guide you in the world of real estate every day. Make better informed decisions with the latest news and insights.
People move into a property and then at times it's too late. They've bought a property and they've found issues that they weren't aware of with the building structure or with termite issues.
Your home insurance will not cover you for damage caused by termites, and statistics show approximately 1 in 3 homes across Australia will be at some stage attacked by termites.
Yes, Craig, and having a pre-purchase inspection greatly reduces the chance of someone buying a property that is riddled with termites or termite damage, and insurance doesn't cover termite damage.
We connect you to the best real estate information across Australia. The Real Estate Podcast.